have a role to play, whether it's in the courthouse, whether it's in the state house, or whether it's out on the streets.
And that's a really great point because, and Cynthia, one of the things that Denise was lifting up was what's happening in what we call the Eighth Circuit, right, which is one of the federal court areas that encompasses Missouri and Minnesota and North and South Dakota and a couple other states. Getting the information out about what's happening, denying black people to be able and brown people to be able to go into the courtroom when their voting rights have been wrong is something that we're championing now. And could you share with people what's going on from that movement that we're in right now, and how to become a part of it?
Sure. First of all, one of the other states is Arkansas, and
Yes.
it's actually the state of Arkansas in a case that emanated there under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, 1965 Voting Rights Act, and that section just addresses challenges to redistricting. Every time there's a census, every 10 years when there's a U.S. census, that information is used by state legislatures to decide how voter precincts will be shaped and drawn. And people may have heard the term gerrymandering, but there are certain things that are of concern. And one is, particularly under the 1965 Voting Rights Act, that there not be a dilution or a reduction in the power of black voters and other voters of color based on how those precincts or those lines are drawn. Well, the NAACP of Arkansas brought in a challenge to the redrawn map in Arkansas, that it diluted the black people's vote. And actually, it does. So that's not even a real question of fact. But on its own, the court that heard the case said, even though the map is wrong, the map dilutes black voters' voices and votes, and there really should be more majority black districts, that's not our issue here. We are on our own going to raise a different question and say, the court said it didn't think that individuals and organizations like the NAACP, like the NAACP Legal Defense Fund that was founded by Thurgood Marshall and others, like the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, or the League of Women Voters, all these organizations whose names we know because over the past 58 years, they and individuals who are concerned have brought 90% plus of the cases enforcing the Voting Rights Act. So now the judge said only the U.S. Attorney General can enforce the Voting Rights Act, just on his own. And what that would mean is that if the situation that happened in 2020 that Denise shared with us in Missouri of an effigy being suspended in a voting polling place that basically was saying black people can't vote here in 2020, that could not be challenged in Missouri because Missouri's in that Eighth Circuit right now. So right now there's a live case. People have asked that the whole court, the whole appeals court, which is 11 justices, rehear that case. En banc is a term used, but all of them hear it, hoping that they'll say, look, for 58 years, we have relied on concerned individuals and organizations to enforce the Voting Rights Act, and we need to continue to allow them, along with the Attorney General and Justice Department, to do so. So that's what's happening now, and this is going to affect all of us because we don't all live in the Eighth Circuit. So those states that you mentioned are not for all of us, but this case has grave implications for the entire country and is setting back the 1965 Voting Rights Act, 58 years, setting back to before it was passed. And that's why the Federal Freedom to Vote Act and the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act are critical pieces of federal legislation that can quickly just get us back on track and make sure that our voting rights are being enforced.
And move us forward into the future to make sure. I just want to, make sure everybody knows that, the court here, as Cynthia pointed out, on its own motion, we call that sua ponte. That means on your own motion. The court didn't have any motions coming in, any memorandums from anybody saying, these people should not have standing to bring a lawsuit. They should be kicked out of the court. The court just decided that instead of reaching the merits of the case, what about the discrimination, that the judge was going to focus on the issue of why should individuals be able to bring a lawsuit under the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which covers all voting discrimination, all unlawful voting discrimination. He decided that he's going to just throw them out, regardless of what the law has been for decades, people. And remember, I want everybody who's listening right now, you don't have to be a lawyer to be in this battle. John Lewis wasn't a lawyer when he walked across that Pettus Bridge. Amelia Boynton, who walked with him, was not a lawyer. None of these, of the 600 people who were on that bridge on Bloody Sunday, March 7, 1965, the majority were just people who cared about voting. They wanted their voting rights. They were mad because in Alabama, only 5% of all eligible blacks were even allowed to be on the voting rolls. It was between 1% and 5%. And they wanted rights, and they marched, and they were beaten. But their efforts, their bravery was what led to the passage of an actual law. So people, as Keith Ellison said last night, this battle is not just a battle in the courts. This battle ultimately, Daryl, will be what? A battle in the street. Daryl.
You're absolutely right, Barbara. And Ashley, I know there's some people that are listening and they're like, well, wait a minute. I'm not a lawyer. They're using all these fancy terms, en banc, and all this other stuff. I don't know anything about anybody's bank or anything else. But, Ashley, you're part of a committee that's working to break it down so everybody can get it, so they can get access to the information, and they easily understand or more easily understand what it's all about. If people want that breakdown, Ashley, how can they get that breakdown?
Of course. Well, first of all, I encourage everyone, regardless of your age, anything, to go on Instagram and follow TJC_DC because we are going to be working as part of that social media committee that is working specifically right now on this hashtag Protect Our Vote campaign. We're banding together with other organizations, and we created this large committee that is working on various things, from simple press releases to a breakdown of factual information about this case to make it easiest to our youngest voters. And we have more information. We have newsletters coming out, videos that are going to be coming out. This team is working hard. When I say around the clock, I mean around the clock, in between their shifts at work, et cetera, to make this information as simple as possible for you all. And I have to be honest, the people working on this material, mostly Gen Z and millennials. And so to take that information, we have to break it down for ourselves first in order to properly deliver it out to you all. And so know that if you follow us, this is nonpartisan information. This is about protecting our democracy. And we have information all the way from what is a democracy, what are voting rights, why do you need to protect your rights? And among these other organizations that we'll be partnering with, you'll see their logos all over the information we're disseminating. Go ahead and follow them too, because they also can give you information about what's going on and keep you updated on how you can bring this information to your family dinner, to your community, flyers you can pass out, and we will be around the country pretty soon sending out postcards, information. And last but not least, I'm going to say it again like I always do. If you want to know more about this, but also how to protect voting rights in general, you need to become a TJC fellow if you are 18 to 35, and meet us at that training in April where you will learn the information where we're at.
Well, let's go into what you just said. Let's go into this a little bit more deeply, Ashley, about how do people apply? I know there are people are saying, what training? Folks, it is a free training. Did you hear me? FREE, free training. You don't have to pay a dime. We pay for all the transportation to Phoenix, Arizona, for all of the people who are selected to be part of our class. There are 50 such applicant slots that are available for someone to become a part of the class. We fly you to Phoenix. We transport you from the airport to the hotel. We pay the hotel. We pay for all your meals. We pay for all the transportation inside and internal to the city. And we also, very importantly, give you a stipend because your time is important. So you get a monetary stipend after you finish the training that you can use for whatever purpose you need. So we are so proud of the fact that we've been able to train 450 young people to date, and we're going to train another 100 this year. So apply. Where do you apply? TJ Coalition, TJCoalition.org, TJCoalition.org. We're going to keep saying that throughout this whole show. And with that said, what for you, Denise, was the most shocking thing you learned last night? I mean, people were in the chat on Facebook going, what? Is that right? I mean, I was reading, all 137 plus comments, and people were shocked at a lot that they heard because they had never heard it. Your new situation was burning up people. What else did you think was really new and shocking information that you learned last night?
Oh, my goodness. I learned so much on the call last night. And, my biggest takeaway was that we all have to work together and that we all bring something different to the table and that all of our skills are needed. But honestly, the most outrageous thing of all is the idea that if your rights have been violated, you don't have a right to go to court to enforce the Voting Rights Act. And that is absolutely shocking, and it goes against everything that our democracy is about, that our legal system is about. I mean, how can you say, first that we're going to put up all these barriers to your right to vote, which has been happening on overload for the last decade since the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act. We're seeing photo ID laws. We're seeing efforts to criminalize third-party voter registration. They passed a law like that right here in Missouri, too, making it illegal to help people get voter registration, making it a felony, Barbara, to help somebody get an absentee ballot application. But then on top of that, you go and you draw black voters out of their ability to elect their candidates of choice and then tell them they don't have a right to go to the courthouse? In 2024, that is absolutely shocking, and we cannot sit down because this is about being able to exercise your voice. If they're taking it away from us at all angles, then nobody's voice is going to be able to be heard. And so we have to fight back against this. This goes against everything that the history of this country is about. And what we know, of course, is that it's always been people in the communities that have actually been the ones that have protected their rights. Communities of color know best how laws affect them. Communities of color know how to organize. People know how laws affect their lives, and now we're telling them they have to be silenced. They have to be censured.
Thank you. Point. Yeah, Barbara, I think that Denise is right on point with that analysis.
Yes.
I think that, what makes it even more offensive, even more, egregious, I think, is that, in the court's analysis, in the Eighth Circuit's analysis out of Arkansas, not only are they saying that